Do you want me to blow your mind really quickly? Since the trade of Russell Westbrook from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Houston Rockets for Chris Paul, the NBA hasn't seen a single trade. Meaning that there hasn't been a trade in the NBA since July 11th, 2019. Meaning that officially, this is the longest trade drought in NBA history, which is very surprising considering the amount of player movement that has gone on in the offseason. So before we start this video, pause this video, or you could keep it running, and let me know in the comment section, why do you think no teams are currently making any trades? Because clearly a lot of teams could use some help. The Utah Jazz are not as good as they thought they were. The Portland Trail Blazers for sure need some additional help. The Golden State Warriors were thinking of trading D'Angelo Russell apparently, but honestly, why is there no trades going on? Let me know in the comment section down below as I cut to this brief message from our sponsor. Wait a minute, you guys have seen this ad already. This video is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below the waist grooming and hygiene, and that's why it's actually one of my favorite brands. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I am a huge fan of Manscaped and their Perfect Package Essentials kit, which is the world's first all-in-one manscaping kit that makes manscaping safe and easy. No joke, guys, I take this thing into my gym locker room and use it as I'm taking a shower. Don't tell my gym that. Manscaped designed a perfect shaver to ensure that you never nick your balls again, called the Lawnmower 2.0. And as you can see, it's also waterproof and you could use it on other areas other than just your balls. Now, this company is so legitimate that they were able to secure a huge investment from Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. And I also got a promo code for you guys to use for 20% off. Use promo code FlightMike to get yourself a nice little discount whenever you shop for Manscaped products. So the NBA trade deadline is about 2 months away, guys. And at this point, this is the point where we're gonna see some hot names definitely move teams. These players really need a change of scenery, and if they don't get traded, it's not only an injustice to the NBA, it's an injustice to them. Nobody wants to see players' talent being wasted. And speaking of players' talent being wasted, be sure to check out my previous video on players whose talent is being wasted. So in this video, we're going to cover 7 players that are definitely going to have new teams within the next 2 months. But before we get to that, guys, if you're new to the channel, you see a lot of my videos recommended to you, you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on my notifications, because as soon as I hit 500,000 subscribers, I will go full-time on YouTube. But on top of that, guys, a lot of my videos have been getting claimed. This is the first time I've ever had a serious threat to my channel, potentially losing my channel. So in the event that something goes on and I end up losing this channel, I am going to continue uploading my videos to IGTV. So make sure you take a moment to follow me on Instagram or Instagram TV. Now, the first player that is definitely going to get traded no matter what is Andre Iguodala, and for the life of me, I can't really understand why Andre Iguodala hasn't played a single minute this season. I understand the Memphis Grizzlies are rebuilding, but I mentioned this about Kawhi Leonard. I'm kind of concerned about whether Andre Iguodala is still in shape or not. At the moment of this video, Andre Iguodala is currently 35 years old, and if he gets bought out, he is rumored to join the Los Angeles Lakers, and he's even been rumored to end up back on the Golden State Warriors by the end of the year, which there's a part of me that feels like this year off for him may be good to get his body rejuvenated. You know, when you're 35 years old, you can't really put on the miles that you once did, but at the same time, this is a concern that I even had with Kawhi Leonard. When you take too much time off, you may be out of shape. So how much of a contributor could Andre Iguodala be when he does come back? Is he still staying in shape? Is he working out? Is he making sure he's ready to contribute to a team? This is potentially more of a buyout opportunity than Iguodala getting traded to a different team. I honestly think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the Memphis Grizzlies may trade Iguodala to a team maybe like the OKC Thunder, who apparently is very willing to take on big contracts. The Thunder may buy out Iguodala, or they may do what they're doing with Chris Paul and hold on to him or flip him somewhere else, more likely buy him out. And then at that point, I see Iguodala joining the Los Angeles Lakers. But speaking of the OKC Thunder, another player that is in the same position as Andre Iguodala, only he is actually playing as opposed to just sitting out the entire year because he thinks there's no point in him playing, is Chris Paul. And Chris Paul had a decision to make a while ago, and obviously he still has this decision to make, and it's either he could ride out the rest of his contract, which is probably the best contract he's going to get for the rest of his NBA career, or he could try to negotiate a buyout with his team and end up on a contending team and ring chase for the final portion of his career. Now, I know this is cliche. I don't think the Thunder are going to end up buying out Chris Paul, mainly because Sam Presti is such a shrewd guy and he views Chris Paul as a huge asset to the team, to the point where even when he was trying to trade Chris Paul to the Miami Heat, he was still treating and acting like Chris Paul was the Chris Paul of 2014 or 2015, this great player that could completely change your offense and be the floor general for your team. But the fact of the matter is, the one issue stopping any team from acquiring Chris Paul is, one, his contract, and two, his age. You do not want to take on this type of contract for this type of player. There's so many better options out there if you need point guard help. I'm not taking anything away from Chris Paul. If he does get bought out, I could see a team making a run at him, but for the time being, I don't really see a team saying, hey, we are just Chris Paul away from winning a championship. Speaking of Chris Paul, let's talk about his former Lob City running mate, Blake Griffin, who is the next player that I feel like is going to have a new team or get traded no matter what. And we could all agree that as admirable of an attempt it was for the Detroit Pistons to put Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond together to create the modern version of the Twin Towers, it's not working. And honestly, the reason why it's not working isn't Andre Drummond's fault. It's not Blake Griffin's fault. It's Detroit management's fault. When you do have the Twin Towers, do you know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to surround them with good shooters. And I was very surprised. I really love Derrick Rose. He is one of the most inspirational stories in the entire NBA, but you cannot get a career 33% field goal percentage, 3-point shooter and make him the point guard of the Twin Towers. You need to surround Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin with more players like Luke Kennard or very cheap shooting. In this past offseason, players like Reggie Bullock, Seth Curry, JJ Redick were all there for the taking, and the Pistons didn't even attempt to sign them. So because of that, the Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin experiment is about to fail, and it's a shame because I feel like if it was done properly, they would have had a lot of success, but I would like to see Blake Griffin get traded. There's been a lot of rumors of him potentially going to the Celtics for LaMarcus Aldridge. That may be interesting, but at the end of the day, I would really like to see this guy in a position to succeed and in a position to win a championship. Which brings me to number 4, and the next player that I feel like is definitely going to get traded, or I would like to see him get traded, it's D'Angelo Russell. And the thing about D'Angelo Russell is, I feel like his free agency decision was based upon him just securing the bag, as it should be. But I would like to see this guy get some stability. I would like to see him in a position to succeed. And I would like to see him on a team that is actually competitive for once. And that was our hope coming into this season. We would see D'Angelo Russell next to Steph Curry. And it really, even when they did play together, it didn't really work out so well. It's mainly because Russell, he's a great player, great playmaker, and very effective shooting from 3. He's just not Klay Thompson. He is not the guy that you want next to Steph Curry. And once Klay Thompson does come back, what's D'Angelo Russell's role? Is he going to be put at the 3 position, or why would they even do that? So I would like to see D'Angelo Russell on a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I've even proposed this before. A trade for Robert Covington just makes way too much sense because Robert Covington is the prototypical 3-and-D type prospect that the Golden State Warriors would like. And of course, I'm sure there's either going to be a pick coming in from Minnesota or maybe Jarrett Culver or Gorgui Dieng just so he can make the money work out for D'Angelo Russell. But I would love to see a player like D'Angelo Russell who succeeds at scoring, is able to take over in those clutch situations next to one of his good friends in Karl Anthony Towns and throwing alley-oops to Andrew Wiggins. That would be a league pass worthy team that I would like to see. But speaking of Minnesota Timberwolves, the next player that without a doubt we could all agree is going to get traded by the end of this season is Kevin Love. And he's already said that he wants to go home and play for his hometown Portland. I think that'd be awesome. I really want Damian Lillard to get as much help as he can. He deserves it. He's in the prime of his career. Carmelo Anthony's awesome. He's been a great story this year, but he clearly isn't the answer to make Portland a competitive and dominant power in the West. So I would like to see Kevin Love get traded to the Portland Trailblazers. I do not know who Portland would give up. Maybe it's McCollum. Maybe it's Hassan Whiteside and a couple of picks. I don't exactly know how they're going to make it work out. I do know that the Cavaliers would probably want a player that they could either build around or a couple of picks for the future. Maybe they could seek something similar to what the OKC Thunder did when they got like a boatload of future first round picks from the Clippers for Paul George. And this next player that I feel like is going to get traded is DeMar DeRozan. And it's not that I have anything against DeMar DeRozan. It's not that I don't think he's good. I just don't think he is in the position to play to his best talents. Next to LaMarcus Aldridge, who is also a great player in his own right, the Spurs have this kind of aging core that has already fulfilled its potential. We already know what they could give us, and it's clearly not enough to make it through the West. The money that they're putting into DeRozan and putting into Aldridge is not enough for them to make it into the Western Conference Finals and eventually win an NBA championship. I've heard some weird rumors like DeRozan going back to the Raptors, and I would like to see that. It would be a nice little touching story to see him reunited with Kyle Lowry, but at the same time, we have to talk about number one on this list, and that's LaMarcus Aldridge. He is 34 years old, and without a doubt, the Spurs have to be thinking about moving him because it's just not working in San Antonio. They are great, but when you have two players locked up under max contracts and they're just not dominating, or they're not even showing the ability to play well together. It's not that LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan aren't good. It's that they're just not good together. They're not a top 3 team in the West. And that's saying a lot because the West is freaking crazy this year. But they clearly need to move the aging Aldridge now that they could get something for him in return, in addition to DeMar DeRozan. Maybe just move one of them and keep the other. But if they did have to move one and keep the other, I'd imagine they would keep DeRozan and trade Aldridge.